Good. All right, I've got 4 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Brad Dial. I'm the chairman of the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District Board of Trustees. Thank you for joining myself and the other members of the board this afternoon for this public hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to consider annexation of property in Southwest Champaign and the Carle at the Fields into the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District. The legal description of the area as being considered for annexation was published in the News Gazette May 8th, 16th, and 24th, and I have a copy of that document right here in front of me if anyone wants to look at them. The proposed areas are outlined in red on the display map, which I can't see. Carle petitioned the Mass Transit District to be voluntarily annexed into the Mass Transit District. The MTD Board of Trustees annexation policy requires that the district boundary be routinely analyzed. MTD's planning area is to be contiguous with the boundaries established by the Regional Planning Commission's Champaign-Urbana Urbanized Area Transportation Study, and our boundary is to be coterminous with the boundaries of the community served. That would be Champaign, Urbana, and parts of Savoy that we have an agreement with. Also, MTD has entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Champaign on November 16, 2004 to annex any area so annexed by the city. To those ends, MTD is considering this annexation. The board will now hear from those who have completed a public comment form who believe there is a legal reason that their property should not be considered for annexation into the district. Each speaker will have 5 minutes. Please stand and address the board when I call your name. The other request I'd make for everyone is to please silence your cell phones or turn them off for us. I appreciate it. Any electronic devices you might have while you're here. The other limitation that we're not having an issue with right now, we're only allowed to have 50 people in this room, so if we end up with an influx of people and if you've had an opportunity to speak and the room gets too full, we may have to ask someone to clear the room. At this time, I would ask Steve Myers to speak to the board, and you can move right up here, sit down, please.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Abbey Fields subdivision and a member of our HOA board of directors, and I see where there's, I believe, 5 or 6 subdivisions that are getting annexed in. I believe some of our board members, the concern that we have is with only one entrance to get into, off of Kirby, to get into Abbey Fields and to Jacob's Landing. A concern for that, there's a lot of construction still going on, a lot more in Jacob's Landing than Abbey Fields. And just a question how that's going to affect, buses going through there. Question whether or not there's a need for it in our subdivision at this time, due to most people have a couple vehicles that they drive. The kids that we've got there are younger families with younger kids and not a lot of teenagers that would possibly be riding it. So just wanting, and I could see it being more beneficial in the future once Judah Christian is up and going possibly. But at this time I question whether or not the need to annex in Abbey Fields for this. I can't speak for Jacob's Landing, but for Abbey Fields residents I can. And for how much of an impact it's going to be, taxes. We already got a tax increase for the Unit 4 referendum, and what kind of an increase will we have for this, and then when will it go into effect if it does happen?
Okay, I'm going to take just a couple more notes here.
Can I ask you a clarification?
Yes.
You said there was only one entrance from Kirby into the development?
Yes.
Are there entrances from other streets, or are you just saying there's...
That is
so
it.
that's the only way to get in?
That's the only way to get
and
in,
out.
is off of Kirby Avenue eventually. There'll be a road off of Rising Road. I believe that's waiting until it's developed with Judah Christian put in. But yeah, currently there's only one way in and one way out. So there's gonna be a lot more traffic on that road.
That's English Oak Road?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know.
All right, Mr. Myers, thank you for your input. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Our next speaker will be Mr. Gang.
Guard?
I can't read what it says, I'm sorry. Guard, I'm sorry, Guard.
Thanks
Go
for
ahead.
inviting I am a resident of Abbeyfield. I requested to MTD for the bus service. I need bus service.
Okay.
So I already picked up the bus from over there to came on the red light to pink bus. I walked over there, I came over here and I picked the bus.
Okay. Very good. Anything else you want to talk about? Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ann Mirapal.
First of all, I'm new to the area, so I don't know all the politics and everything that's going around, but I have done some studying. I'm not sure I filled that form correctly. I just thought it meant to talk. I didn't know it meant yay or nay, whether you are for it or against it. I'm
You
just here.
can speak to the issue whether you're for it or against it.
Okay, because
Tell us
I don't
your
know
opinion.
I don't know if I am or not. I need all the info I can
Sure.
get. But I had, before I came here, I managed to just quickly type off an email to some of the heads of the MTV. So I'll just kind of read that and then kind of fill in a couple of things, and I'm getting ready to talk a lot, so tell me to stop.
Well, I don't want you to stop talking. Could you tell me which part of the area you live in?
Yes, I live in, I just moved down here in August, 2303 Naples Court, the Villas of Ironwood. And I'll explain kind of.
Sure.
Okay. I'm a new resident, in fact, a senior, of the Villas of Ironwood at 2303 Naples Court, Champaign. In August, I purchased this home and relocated from Evanston, Illinois to here. And living in Evanston, which is north of Chicago, I was used to public transport and I really never drove my car. And I'm learning here, I have to drive my car everywhere for every reason. However, I was aware of that when I first looked at the areas down here. But part of the perks that helped me make my decision to buy this property and to relocate was that I checked your website and I was like so excited when I saw there was a bus stop at Mullican and Villa, you know, not even a block from me. I think I may have it right. Yeah, Mullican and Villa, yeah. It's a Navy Line bus stop.
Yeah.
And I was just like, ooh la la, I've got it made. I won't have to drive everywhere. However, once I moved down here and I'll start reading again. I was thrilled to be close to the public transport to participate in a variety of the events that U of I has to offer. I was thrilled to be close to public transport to use for grocery shopping, to attend doctor dentist appointments, take classes, run errands. This all was my intent. So since I moved, I've kind of come out from under, and I've studied that your MTD bus routes, all of them, most of them seem to run many hours, oftentimes during the day, some evenings, some not, and weekends as well. Well, I was shocked when I finally realized that this particular line, you can only pick it up like, I don't know, between 8 and 9 or 7:30 and 9 or something in the morning. And then you have to wait until end of work day, which is perfect for those who are still employed, thank goodness they are. And then they don't run evenings at all, and then they don't run weekends at all. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense for me to try to use it. I've checked out, I've actually walked to the pink stop that's close, I'm turned around in here, yeah, close to the Y access. But that's quite a long hike on days where my bones may be aching. I'm willing to hike, but it seems like a lot. There is no other midday bus coming or going to make it possible for me to use this line because I don't want to stay all day. I read the article in the Gazette and saw that you were willing or are going to extend some services west of 57 to meet the needs of the entire community. And I'm aware that Carle does have a huge facility under construction at Staley and Curtis, and I assume there's going to be even a greater need to extend the hours, the days, the number of stops, et cetera, to accommodate the citizens even better to handle the anticipated needs in this area. I do know that in the villa complex in which I reside now, a lot of seniors. Wonderful people, but there are a lot of seniors. There are also some families with young kids, you know, who may have doctor's appointments or whatever throughout the day. And then I didn't really check to see how far it was extending, but I know there are families in the homes behind. I'm a believer in saving the environment. I don't want to drive my car. I'd rather carpool or rather use public transportation, thinking of the environment than to save money. I also see that there's a route that you could get to the airport, and I know a lot of the people in my area travel because they are retired, and wouldn't that be wonderful? But that's, you know, I'm asking for a lot. But I'm also aware that everybody's budgets are very tight, including my own. And I understand that making changes or adding on to such an extensive, wonderful transportation system that you do offer, I understand that's going to take a lot of money. I don't want to see my taxes go up, but I'm no dummy. I understand it's going to take money to add. But I'd rather spend the money on my taxes than buying gas and repairing my car more frequently. So I'm just a newbie, but it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut. I love to research and keep on top of things, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your input. Appreciate it. Any other cards right now? No. Okay. Well, I think we're just gonna be kind of hanging out here until somebody else comes to offer us some input. Technically we're having a listening session, unless staff has something that they want to respond to.
That's right.
I said we were discussing, that we're really having a listening session, not we're not.
Well, I would ask Carle maybe to say something about how we determine service in a new area and when taxes might be evident on their
And I might show up on their bill.
tax bills, yeah, just some points of fact.
So maybe, Carl, you can also comment on the MTD service extended on cabs and so forth, on off hours for seniors at reduced rates.
Say that again, Jim?
You know, the service at the MTD offers for reduced rates for
Half
cab
fare
fares.
cab.
Half fare cab.
Yeah.
Or when service is not extended, et cetera.
Right.
Introduce yourself.
Do you want me to do that now? Sure. Okay. I'm Carl Gannett. I'm the managing director of the district. So we look at, in terms of developing service, we'll be happy to have additional meetings to talk with residents who desire service and residents with concerns. And we also will meet with associations. I'm not recalling right now off the top of my head the name of the individual that we've already spoken with the Trails of Chestnut Homeowners Association, and he has indicated that the association wants to participate in the development of service, and we'd be happy to do that. But we have a planning department who looks at many variables that include the requests and concerns, and then what the ridership generators are and the destinations and how they could or would connect with other routes, so that people can get to other parts of the community. And so it's just fitting a lot of these pieces together, and we very much would like to hear from anyone who has opinions on that, and we'll incorporate all of that into the process. What Mr. Farron was referring to, before I get to that, the other thing that Ms. Bauer was mentioning was the property taxes and the timing of the property taxes, and I can't give you a hard and fast answer to that because it depends on what the board action is. But if the board approves the annexation at the June board meeting and then files that ordinance with the county clerk right away prior to June 30th, then it would be the next revenue year that the property taxes would begin. So that would be the 2018 revenue year. If they choose to delay the filing with the county clerk, then it depends on how long they delay. But if they do it just, say just as a hypothetical, if they were to do it July 10th, then it would be the revenue year of 2019 that they would go on the property taxes, and then you can figure each year of delay would delay the when the property taxes start. Carle, this service, looking at this area and planning for services in this area, for us to provide as efficient a service as possible, this really plays into what we'll be doing with Carle at the fields and what they have asked for service. And so Carle has asked for service to begin in January, and so that's what we're loosely targeting. And so that actually, the timing of that, should the board approve the annexation at the June board meeting and file that before June 30th, then the timing of that works well in terms of the fiscal year, or the revenue year matching up with the start of service. What Mr. Farron was referring to was a program that we have that was part of our charter startup services called the half-fare cab program for individuals with that are over 65. I don't want to make any assumptions, but it might be a program that some people could look into. As soon as the area were to be annexed, then anybody over 65 in that area would be eligible for the half-fare cab program. And what the half-fare cab program is, it allows those folks to utilize cab services, and MTD pays for half of the fare, and then the user pays for the other half. So it's a coordinative program that we have with a handful of cab companies in town. And so that could be an alternative. Perhaps, again, I don't want to make assumptions.
Oh, no. When I signed up for my card, the kind lady at the booth told me all about it, but she wasn't sure that it would work because I was so far out.
Well, it wouldn't now
Not
because you're not in the annexed area. Your area is not in the district.
Okay.
But post annexation, then
And
that
then would
becomes
it take
available to
me,
you.
for example, from my area to the airport or something? Would it do that? Because does it show that this is in the airport is in the line, or no?
Yeah, the airport.
I'd have to walk that half mile to get to the terminal.
No, I think that what we've done with the airport, I was looking back at Brian Farber, who's behind you, he's a University of Illinois employee, and we work together on the contract between the two agencies. The airport is owned and operated by the university. It is not technically in the district,
Okay.
but we have annexed as an intergovernmental agency agreement between the university, the village of Savoy, and MTD. We annexed a strip of 45 all the way down to the entrance of the airport so that it was at least contiguous to the district. So I think as far as half-fare cab, I know that with our ADA services, the demand response service that we have for individuals with disabilities, so I'm pretty sure the half-fare cab program works along the same line. Amy is nodding yes. Jan, you're giving me a quizzical look, so I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Okay.
So I think it would take you to the terminal.
I wouldn't be
guess is
going to
what
the
I'm
terminal
saying.
every day, but I was just asking.
Sure, and I don't think we're gonna drop you off at the curb at the airport, so I think.
Well, I'm just
we'd like
looking
to
at the
finish
road
your
here and I
trip.
see it doesn't go towards the terminal.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
so,
Good?
all right.
Okay, we do have another speaker, that's Katie Ross from English Oak Drive.
Hi there, and first of all, I apologize for coming in a few minutes late. I was coming straight from work.
This is an open house, so
Okay.
you come and go.
Okay. I do have mixed feelings about this. In general, I would say I'm more probably opposed personally. My concern mostly as a homeowner is that if I've calculated the assessment correctly, it would be about $1,200 for my family, which seems exorbitant. And our property taxes in Champaign are pretty high already. I really don't relish the idea of adding that much for a service that really I don't use. Now, I'm very sensitive to the fact that there are people in our community who would like to use it. Would I be willing to pay as a homeowner a few $100s, $300, $400 to allow that to happen? I would be more willing in that range. When we're talking about $1,200 a year, that's a lot of money, and so I'm curious if there's a cap. I'm also concerned about buses driving over the Kirby Bridge over 57, and I don't know if that's part of the plans, but for somebody that drives over that bridge several times a day, when you are in your vehicle and you're encountering another vehicle coming the other way and there's a pedestrian or a bicycle, it's very dangerous. And it's hard for me to imagine buses too in that mix. So if the annexation occurs, maybe there's a route, a way to go around that bridge. The other thing is I'm a member of the Abbey Fields Homeowners Association Board, and there's a couple of us here who are. If this is a done deal, which it probably is, we'd very much like to be involved from the Homeowners Association if that's a possibility.
For route planning, bus stop.
Sure, yes, exactly. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anything else right now? Jan? Anybody else?
You raised your hand. We'll get you.
I looked mine up today, mine's 267.
My name is Angela Graham, and I'm from Trey Boulevard in Jacobs Landing.
Okay.
I think I'm the only one here from Jacobs Landing. We're a much newer subdivision in that it's still under construction, a lot of it. I agree with everything that's been said by the Abbey Fields residents. We too would not, I have a husband that works out of town, would be going to Muhammad schools in the future. I work at the university. I do not see us using this bus or it helping our family. I don't think that it would work out for us to use it. We lived in a former neighborhood at Savoy that also did not annex it. Prairie Fields did not annex it in the past. I don't know about the future. At that point, I think it was a couple $100 they were talking about. This is a much higher price tag to us with already higher taxes, especially for the Muhammad schools. So I can't speak for all of Jacobs Landing, but I would like, we don't have a homeowners association yet. We would like to start one, but they have to have so many homes developed before they can do that. So I feel like they don't have enough knowledge. We have nextdoor.com right now, and that's how we're trying to, we don't know all of our neighbors. There's still houses being built, there's still developers working on things. We've talked to the developer of our neighborhood about starting our HOA, and they've said that we cannot until they're 80 or 90% full. So I hope that in that neighborhood is considered, and I don't know what input Judah's had either in that in the future. But that's a whole other part of that area that I hope is considered and gets the opportunity to have input in this.
Could we get your address, please? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
5015 Train,
You said 50?
5015.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Sure,
you.
Thank you.
Anybody else right now? All right, we're kind of stalled until somebody else decides to come in. She just spoke
That's-
up, sir.
that's that lady?
Yeah,
Okay.
sir. Correct.
May I ask, I think the article said that the tax rate would be 32 cents on every $100 of your assessed value. It is a lot, it's a lot of money. But,
Well, I think you do have to, sorry, Carl.
No, please go ahead.
The assessed value of your property is usually about a third of the sale value.
right,
So we're not talking about what you paid for your house.
right, I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah, so a couple of things, and I'm not asking you to respond because I don't want you to feel like you need to say what the value of your house is in an open meeting, but at $1,200, that would be a $1.1 million house. So if that's the value of your house, 1.1 million, if that's the market value, then that's what you would, that is what the property tax amount would be if the market value was 1.1 million. That's not what the assessed value would be though, because the assessed value would be a third of that.
That's a good clarification.
So I just did a quick calculation. It's probably more like 375 on your, based on your probably,
Dollars?
your current
Yeah, that
tax
makes
bill.
sense.
It's more like 375.
Assuming that it's not a market value of 1.1 million.
My home is not.
Yeah.
But there are some homes.
Sure.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
Yep. I understand.
But even at that, even at a $400,000 house or something, you're still talking $375, $400 adder. We just got a tax increase from Unit 4, taxes are gonna keep going up. Budgets are getting tighter, and it's a big number to swallow, there's a way to cut back or do something, it's just, with the economy now, I just think it's hard to asset of people, especially if may not use it as much.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I understand that.
Whereas Carle, I can see they probably don't have much of an issue with it over there, I'm assuming. I don't know how that's taxed for them.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure about that right now either. There's some of that is still up in the air about what's taxable and what's not taxable, and so there's a little bit of murkiness with that.
But they're technically requesting annexation. They're not, they want a service because they need their employees.
Yeah. Well, I understand, like I said, they got bigger pockets, they can afford, it's for their patients and their people, whereas us, may not use it as much, no question.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make a clarification about
Yeah, that's an important
at
clarification.
least put your mind at
Thank you.
ease about that, if I could.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll stand by for a moment.
How long do we?
Has there been considerations of maybe splitting it and just doing Carle since they've requested it, and there may be more people opposed in these other subdivisions, and doing that at a later date? Maybe like with Jacob's Landing and Abbey Fields when they're more finished out, and you got more people there that may use it. I don't know if it could be split up, but since they're the ones doing it, or wanting it more, if that's an option to split it up.
I think Jacob is also,
I'm sorry?
Jacob is already in the plan.
Yes.
Jacob is already in the plan.
Parts of it, yes, yeah. Yeah, that certainly is an option. I guess from our perspective, if we're looking at changing service levels out here and increasing and enhancing the level and quality of service, then it becomes a situation where do we plan for inefficient services or efficient services, and trying to address all the service requests at the same time, and trying to make a comprehensive approach to the routing and scheduling so that we can address the service needs in that area, as well as Carle, with one planning effort and one cohesive, comprehensive route and schedule that serves the area? Or do we do it piecemeal and then try to force them together after the fact, which you generally end up with a much less efficient and usable or functional type of service level? And so what we're trying to do is actually be and I get from this perspective that this will be difficult for you to understand, but we're actually trying to be as good stewards as possible to the overall taxpayer funding, because we want to be as efficient with the funds as we possibly can be.
So can I ask, do you know at this point whether you certainly probably wouldn't be adding a new bus line, you would be extending like the pinks or the navies or whatever comes out to this way? I mean, do you have an idea of what might be the plan to service Carle, which is the main intent for this, I guess? Or?
We have, the planners have put together a couple of different options, and they're different versions of approaches. And so some versions have doing something different with the pink, for instance, and completely changing how we approach the pink. Another version has us doing something totally different with the Green Express route, which is a totally different route.
Yes. I've seen it, but I can't use it.
No, yeah, it doesn't. It would be totally different.
It's like I want to wave them down.
Yeah. So there are a handful of different versions that we're kind of playing out, and I don't know if you want to. I don't know how far down that road you want us to go at this point, because it's really pretty early in that process for us, and we don't have a lot of details to give you with all of these versions.
Right.
But they're just different ideas that we've had so far that we could kind of play with to see which works the best and which we can be the most efficient with.
Will the public be aware of what options you are seriously considering before you vote on June 28th or 9th or whatever it is, or no?
Of which version of service?
Yes.
No. No.
Will at some point, will it be revealed to the public what the options are, or do you guys decide first and then reveal it? Because I understand you probably get 100 different thousand yays or nays on the various options, but I don't know what the process is with you.
We, as I said earlier, we would want to take input and involve these areas in that. So certainly before we implement the service, or before we get locked into a version of the service, we would
That's what I wanted to
solicit
hear.
input.
Yeah. Before it's locked in, I think it's important that you reach out.
Right, absolutely.
Well, it's not always done that
No,
way in all communities.
I understand. Yeah, we want input, wink, wink.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
All right, and Judy, would you like to speak? Please. You can come right up here and sit down.
Really?
Sure.
Yes, we all do.
Oh, yeah. You're on stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on camera.
Oh, on camera, okay. I live at 1613 Crabapple Lane in Chestnut Grove, Chestnut Grove. I'm also on the board of our HOA, and there's been a lot of discussion in our neighborhood of concerns of what a large bus might do to our particular makeup. Has anyone gotten here before me? I know we had a lot of members away.
I don't think we've heard anyone specifically from Chestnut.
Okay, so to enter either of our entries, one off of Rising Road or onto, from Kirby onto English Oak, we have these roundabouts. And we have these large medians, and we already have a situation there where the city has had to replace parts of our roundabouts, which is our commons areas that are our responsibility as homeowners in there, that we have to have a budget to care for those. And then there's another section where Sanctuary Drive meets Chestnut Grove Drive, where there is a large median there with trees and plantings in it. And when homeowners were trying to get their homes built, and they were just, even the concrete trucks, a regular concrete truck was trying to come in and out of our neighborhood, it was, they were either forced to go up on the curb and on the sidewalk to maneuver some of those. So our concern as a neighborhood, and I'm the vice president of our HOA, is the size of any kind of bus that might be coming in there and the damage that it might do to those roundabouts and to those medians there, that we as homeowners have to put plantings in and replace trees and things like that, of which we are against any large bus coming actually into those spaces. And unfortunately, for the bus line, it is right, it comes, I mean, they're right at the entrance of both of our entrances, our only two entrances. Fire trucks have enough trouble maneuvering in there. Ambulances do okay. Fire trucks.
Garbage trucks?
I'm sorry.
Garbage trucks?
Garbage truck can do it. Fire truck, we have, the fire trucks can do it. They have to be very careful, but they come out and practice. When they need to practice there. It's you can't just run in that neighborhood. It's one of those. And actually, the first year our neighborhood was in existence and we had the large snow, we were all snowbound. We were snowbound in our neighborhood, and our city manager lives in our neighborhood. Now, she didn't at that time, the Champaign city manager, but we, for 2 days, no one could get in or out. And we had 10 doctors at that time that lived in our neighborhood. So what the city had to do is they actually had to hire some contractor to come out and with a backhoe, because the snowplows got stuck. 2 snowplows got stuck, and they couldn't. And it's a narrow thing, so it's not a little something to run a bus through there. You're not going to just run through there like a normal bus is going to do. And so we would prefer, I mean, since we do have 2 entrances, if the bus could stop at Kirby or entrance, or stop at the Rising entrance, since we have 2 entrances, that would be helpful to us not having damage there, or have, I guess it'll be MTD, right? Or MTD that would be repairing concrete if it got damaged. I guess that's a concern. We want to encourage families and children to live in our neighborhoods, so if that's a way that high schoolers would be going to school. But I can tell you right now, the school buses, they do not go where I used to live, which was at 4707 Chestnut Grove. It was such a pain there that none of us miss living over there. We now live on the other side of the subdivision when we move back to the area. But the school buses do not go down to that corner just because it's a hard one to maneuver. So they stop at English Oak and Sanitary Drive, and the kids have to come to there, or they come to the front of the subdivision. And you can check that to see where those routes, those buses that come in there for just elementary school, they're not going through the whole neighborhood. So that I see, and or if you know where, do you guys know where Trails of Chestnut Grove is at Kirby and
Sure.
Rising? Yeah. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say is there's a challenge there, and if you're considering these routes, maybe you route it to the beginning or both of those entrances somehow.
So you're more concerned about the routing than you are about the annexation, is that
Well,
accurate?
I can tell you, none of the neighbors are happy about having higher taxes. We already have some of the highest taxes in Southwest Champaign right now. On a $385,000 house, I'm paying $9,200. And that we feel is pretty extreme already. And a lot of the neighbors that I have a much bigger, more expensive house than I have. So they're paying $12,000 and $15,000 in taxes already. And because I'm a smaller house in our neighborhood, I know what that means for my taxes. And as a board member, they're pleading that if it couldn't be done, that we wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank
So
you.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Okay, we'll wait for a few minutes for some of us to come in.
Yeah, I'll just real quickly respond to roundabouts.
Thank you.
I'm a fan of roundabouts too, and I don't want to damage your roundabouts. So we certainly will take that into consideration. I appreciate that input. We're looking at some options of service that would not even bring large vehicles into the neighborhoods. And that's part of the reason why. So we're sensitive to that, and we will, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking to the residents and the homeowners associations as we pull things together to get that kind of input. So we don't want to break them either.
I appreciate that.
Sir, do you reach out to all homeowners associations? Do you take the initiative to contact every one of them, or is it the responsibility of our HOA to pay attention? Should I alert my HOA and, how does this work here?
It's difficult to make that contact. That's not something you can just look up in the yellow pages. Homeowners
It's difficult for you,
Association.
yes.
Yeah, yes.
And I have the information, they're difficult to contact, so.
Yeah, so,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's you guys, and you said you're on your board, and we do have one contact from, I wish I could remember his name. I keep looking at you, because I'm hoping that you remember, but I see that blank look in your eyes. So we do have one, and now we have another, but yeah, if you could mention something to your homeowners association, everybody, you
We're
said,
unique in that we don't have.
Oh, you don't
one
have
yet,
one yet.
So you'll get the developer, which is Helmer, who may or may not call you back, but then we don't get input
Yes,
as a neighborhood in that.
yes.
We have a hard enough time just getting questions answered about sidewalks getting fixed and stuff, but if you reach them, you won't reach the neighborhoods. I'm trying to figure out how you can actually reach the residents in the neighborhood.
We have the contact information from the sign-in sheet today.
yeah.
Perhaps you could be their
For some
spokesperson.
I would be happy to,
Yeah,
because I'm not sure.
and we'd be willing to do a mailing or
Okay.
door hanger
Okay.
kind of thing too, so that, I mean,
What's
we'll play
unique
around with
about
that.
us is we're gonna be in the Mahama School District, so we're all gonna be going
Ah.
that way to get our kids to school. And there's a bus that comes out there. Some of those families might choose Judah, but we're not sure that they will at this point. So we'll be headed to Muhammad, and then wherever we work, so we won't be using this. So the buses too are concerned of tearing up the neighborhood and stuff too.
Which neighborhood was yours?
JJ's Landing.
Oh, yours, Jacobs. But not all of Jacobs Landing is in
Yes.
I think English Oak is Champaign, but I think Jacobs Boulevard is over, and anything undeveloped is.
That's the one that advertised City of Champaign, Muhammad School District.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
right there on the corner of Rising and Kirby. And there's only one entrance in and out of it, and you have to go around 2 roundabouts.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, is there a, I know we're talking with our attorney for our HOA, and he had even mentioned that the only way we could really even try to do something as residents with our HOA was to get a petition signed by like 500 residents. This was like, we just found out about it probably a month ago, and that's a lot of names to get to try to do that. But then he had indicated that also, even though if we got the petition signed, it probably wouldn't matter, and that it's gonna be a decision that's gonna be made. Is that the case, or is there ways that this could maybe be postponed or something?
I think that's more of a question for the board.
Let's go, well, here's probably the two things I can tell you is we have an agreement with the city of Champaign and the city of Urbana that we will annex areas as they come into the city. So technically, I don't know how long you've been living where you've been living, but we could have annexed your neighborhood quite some time ago, and we haven't yet. So actually, we've already put it off. So I understand what you're saying about putting it off, but we're already probably maybe 5 or 6 years where, you know, this could have, probably would have done already, technically. But we do have an agreement with the city that we will provide services anywhere within the city. That's part of that CUOTS, the transportation program that I discussed in my opening. That's the countywide transportation plan, or the urbanized area transportation plan, where there will be transit available throughout Champaign-Urbana and the areas in Champaign that are, or the areas in Savoy that are annexable at this point.
Can we just ask questions?
Sure.
So, I'm sorry, I was in a meeting, I didn't get a chance to get here for when you started and hear all that. So, the purpose then for this meeting is to just give us your plan?
It's to hear from you. This is actually more of a listening session, so we're listening to homeowners or property owners that live within the area to be annexed. So we're kind of outside the borders of what we originally were planning on doing as far as having a discussion, because this is really more an opportunity for the homeowners to speak to us and give us your input.
And it does help because we don't live in those areas. And so many times in this past annexation hearings, the homeowners have been able to tell us about things that might cause problems or difficulties, or legal questions and that kind of thing that we didn't know about. And we need to look into them before we do any service.
I mean, it is true that it's not a vote, by the people living there. MTD provides, it's kind of it's a service, or you could look at it as not a utility, but if somebody's putting utilities in somewhere, they don't say, well, we're gonna skip electricity to this house because they're gonna, make their own fires and stuff like that. You look at a comprehensive plan, and you look at, what triggers an annexation. A lot of times it is being in a service area where you have agreements. The law does mandate that we have a public hearing. If there are any legal obstacles, and legal meaning it's not just a petition, but is there something, maybe there's a bunch of farmland in the middle we didn't know about or something. But as Margaret said, we really do want to know, are there concerns about how that service would be, and are there ways we can make that service optimal for you, or not interfere with, something that's going on So it is valuable to us and also valuable to you to understand how the process works. So that's always very helpful. You know, and this is a really personal note, but I never used to ride the bus particularly. I live in southeast Urbana, where we also have great taxes. But I got carpal tunnel, and I had surgery and stuff. So there was a period of time that I just either didn't want to or shouldn't have, or couldn't drive. And I started riding the bus and found it, you know, I could do other things. And of course, I worked at the university the last 2 years, and there's just, you know, parking is out of sight, and besides, who wants to drive that little bit? So it is a valuable service. You never know who in your neighborhood or when they might need it. And what we do is not piecemeal, it's a comprehensive plan.
And I appreciate that. I understand that, like the sewer lines, you can't skip one, or a water line or something like that. And I, like you, serve this entire community as a realtor. And so I understand there are different needs in different neighborhoods, and there can be people that would maybe move in Trails of Chestnut Grove or Jacob's Landing that might use it. The probability, though, of Jacob's Landing and Trails of Abbey Fields, Trails of Brittany, I know it goes through Trails of Brittany already. I see them go down there on the main drag. But the probability of someone using it in our area would be very slim. And I guess I would want you to know that, because the amount of tax dollars that is going to cost my neighbors, there's 145 of us, so if the attorney says we have to have 500 petition, our neighborhood isn't that large, but I can tell you they're already paying a ton of taxes, and I don't know any neighbor that I've spoken to at our last meeting, and we're going to have another meeting Wednesday night, so I'm sure I'll hear more, and they're going to want to know I was here. But yeah, they're saying we just won't be using this service, and we don't understand why we have to pay the taxes for it. And I would think if we were not on the far, far west side of Champaign, when I say on the, I mean, after that is farm fields. We're like High Cross Road, there is nothing beyond us. If we weren't on the far, far side, I could consider or think about us being contiguous, or something like that with relation to Carle's new facility there on Curtis and South Staley Road. But we are another mile west from that. As they'd say, on the West 40. We're on the West 40. And so I'm not sure that it makes sense for us as homeowners to pay for something that probability we're not going to use. And I too was in a car accident a while back, and couldn't use that, but the bus probably wouldn't have been the way I would have gotten my transportation around from my area.
Well, and you had mentioned, you know, where we live. We've been in Abbey Fields for 2 years, and you know, the economy's really slowed down, and it sat vacant for many years along with Jacob's Landing, and then the last couple of years it took off. I believe we're about 80% filled down in Abbey Fields. Before that, we lived in Cherry Hills for 15 years and had bus service out there. And it was, with being a more established subdivision with teenage kids, high school kids, I think it got a lot more use over there. Whereas, you know, where we're a newer subdivision with, you know, older residents who are retired or younger families that are coming out there, you'll see a lot of young kids running around. I mean, 8 and younger. And they're not gonna, I wouldn't think they would use it. I mean, I think it's great what you guys offer in town, in the community. I think it's a wonderful thing, but, you know, I just question if we'll get much use out of it 5-10 years from now when these kids are growing up and they're, you know, in high school, junior high, they probably use it more.
Would you say your percentage of occupancy was there again?
I think we're about 80% filled
About
now.
80? Okay.
Yeah, isn't that right, Katie?
It's pretty close.
I think that's what they said. We got 119, 120 lots.
Sounds right.
I
Thank you.
think we have 14 lots left in Chestnut Road.
And I don't know about Jacob's Landing, but there's a lot more empty homes there.
Asking if we can start the HOAs, we have people that wanna do it, and they're not full enough, they're not booked, and that's the holding company for the developer, we can't even talk to the developer, we have to go through, we have to write a letter to get things put up and all this stuff, we still can't, you know, so we tried to just meet each other and stuff, but I think the majority of them are not even aware this is going on, because they may not read the paper, they don't get the paper, they may not read it online, and if they're not on nextdoor.com, and we're actually on your nextdoor.com in every field, that's how we get them. That they don't know about it, I don't think. So,
I was pleased when you put in the Navy bus stop signs. Because I always wondered, where is one supposed to stand exactly, on which side of the street? So those are kind of a new
Yeah.
development since I moved in. Thank you for doing that.
In some areas,
Yeah, yeah,
Designated stops are new.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you, what would help, again, you know, it's not like it's a vote or a consensus from the neighborhoods, but what would help to inform people and let them know that this is coming and how the process works?
Most of my neighbors subscribe to the News Gazette, so I would assume, I don't, I just check for things occasionally online. I have that curious mind and do that kind of stuff a lot, so I don't know how to reach them, and I'm not even sure all of them would use it, because they, like I say, they're in their 80s, some 90s, and they're couples, and they're still driving, and sometimes that scares the bejeebers out of me, so the roads might be safer if not so many of them are driving. But, and I'm serious, and safer for them as well as everybody else around, especially when you have the harsh, you know, the ice this winter, just, whoa! I couldn't get over 57, and I had to go all the way down to Springfield and whatever. But I know I'm used to the city and used to walking to the buses, and, you know, I'm an individual, I'm not a couple. And so everybody develops these patterns of how they get to places, and I got away from driving my car to everything. So I have a different outlook than a lot of people too, I think. But believe me, I don't want my taxes to go any higher either, but but I would use it if it was available, because I think it would save me on car expense.
Well, I know for communications for Abbey Fields on Facebook, you can get to us on that. There's a lot of activity. I don't know if our website's been up yet, is it?
We don't have a website yet, but, you know, one of the best ways probably to reach people is through the HOAs if there is one, and, you know, certainly we have one in Abbey Fields, and we emailed information to our residents, we posted it on our neighborhood Facebook page. You know, I only found out about this meeting when it was in the News Gazette this weekend, so I put that on the Facebook page, and you know, then we got together through email today and said, you know, who's going to go, and so, you know, those really are the best methods.
Maybe a posting at the Y and the other health off of Windsor, begins with an F. Yes, maybe there, because I know a lot of the people in the villas go to those places. I don't know how individualized you want to reach out, but just a suggestion.
You know, this is supposed to be a listening section, so I was just holding my peace. Philosophically, some interesting points have been raised, and I live in Lincolnshire Field, so I'm sort of with you. Although in that area right surrounded by the city, we're not in the city. But it is a challenge. We live in a collective society, and it's hard sometimes. I feel the same way to cherry pick. Several people says, well, I will probably never use the service. That's true. I have 2 adult daughters. I have not had anybody in Unit 4 schools for almost 20 years, but people have passed a $183 million referendum. I have mixed opinions. The Champaign County Nursing Home, same situation. By the same token, I don't use Parkland, but it is a collective part of the environment. You can go forest preserves. So, you know, sometimes we have to think in a broader scale. I'm not defending the MTD one way or the other, but when you look at issues, you really need to look at it in a broad thing, because it's very hard in a collective group to cherry pick. I mean, either you're in or you're out. And probably if a person really wants to cherry pick, they should live in a very rural area where they're not subject to so many different strictures. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah.
But it is a challenge to try to see how we fit in, particularly when there's many services we will never use.
Does Abbey Fields Homeowners Association have a website?
No, it does not. Not yet. We're working on it.
Okay,
We just started up in January of this year, so
okay,
we're new to it.
We've only had a homeowners association for a couple months.
okay.
Yes.
Well, so there's two problems, is finding out whether there is an HOA, and then finding out who's in charge of it, you know, who's the chair or the, well, I think certainly any ideas you can give us as to how to keep people informed and let them know what's going on. We have set up an annexation website, which may have been in some of the material that you got from the MTD, that talks about, has text of the laws, and it has stuff about, you know, the pros and cons, how you can save money, how you can travel better. So you might want to take a look at that. I don't know. What's the?
It's growth.cumtd.com. And there's more information than you'd ever want.
Tells you all
But
about
why it's important
Yeah.
and how it works.
and how it can benefit you.
Do you know, I find that the average person doesn't take time to go beyond the front page and then read all the detailed stuff, you know? I do, I'm one of those weirdos, but not everybody does that.
We have a reporter here, so
Okay.
gonna feel bad there. If you don't read it.
You don't read the News Gazette.
You know, it's interesting to hear you say that there is an annexation website, because I spent some time trying to find any information. After I saw the News Gazette article, I Googled MTD annexation, you know, Champaign, couldn't come up with anything except for, you know, old agreements and things like that. And I was able to find minutes of a board meeting that the MTD had, but really, you know, to even try to find the amount that was quoted in the News Gazette, the 32 cents per $100, couldn't find that anywhere online. I was interested to find out if there was a cap on that, couldn't find that. You know, I was trying to find information about whether there were proposed routes or anything like that. I mean, and I consider myself a fairly good, good with the internet, and you know, I don't know if it's you know, not registered with, you know, search engines yet or what, but it just wasn't picking anything up. So I don't know if you want to look at that.
That's good to know. Thank you. All the things that you mentioned are there. Sorry, I had trouble finding them. We can look and see what, not getting keywords or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't it intuitive or something for you?
Yeah, I mean, whatever I was plugging into Google was not bringing that back. Yeah, the growth CUMTD, but I will check it out.
Sure.
We're actually in the middle of building a new website.
Ah.
So it's good timing to hear that, and we can make sure that that gets incorporated in a more, I'm sorry?
Yeah, at least by subject.
Yeah, we can make an effort to make it more accessible. So, thank you.
The other thing I wanted to ask, I hope I don't have to come back up there.
Not as long as we can hear you.
But the gentleman from Charles Abbey Fields mentioned talking to their attorney about needing, you know, to get a petition. Is it important for you, because I mean, like I said, we got a board meeting Wednesday evening. And at the last board meeting, the people were coming to ask us to have this discussion with you. And they were the ones who brought it to our attention, that they were concerned what this was going to mean for us with our roundabouts and our foliage and all that stuff, which is our largest bill. Our bill is $38,000 a year for our commons, just to maintain our commons. And so you can imagine that is an important thing. I know their entry was $35,000, I think, just to put in their waterfall in their entry, which is right across the street from ours. So I guess if there's something we need to do as homeowners, does it matter to you to have signatures that say that you would prefer you didn't do it this way or that way? If you're gonna do it anyway, at least so that we can do it and not, our kids play freely in the streets. The garbage people come very early in the morning, and that's not usually when kids are out there. And right now, up by those roundabouts where the school bus picks them up, kids don't walk there by themselves. Parents stay there because that roundabout is such a situation that it's just too tight. There's traffic coming there from 4 directions and into our entry, and but that's where the school bus stop is. So I guess the question would be, how would we have further discussion about those kinds of things, or what would be a process that would be helpful for that?
Well, you can certainly do a petition within your neighborhood if you choose to, and you can bring it to the board meeting, but we're obviously not voting on this today. We'll be voting on this potentially in the June 28th meeting. It'll be an item on the agenda, so that would be the next opportunity to provide input to the board prior to a vote.
Yes, send some representative to the meeting.
Where would that meeting be held?
That'll be the Champaign City Council chambers.
Champaign City Building.
And what's that date?
It's the last Wednesday in June.
The 28th.
28.
Last Wednesday. It might be also worth mentioning, we sometimes have, our meetings typically run from 3 to 5, the last Wednesday of the month. But they are now, since we hold our meetings in the Champaign City Council chamber, they are on, you can easily access the meeting if you get not there personally on YouTube. I have watched our last 2 meetings, and at least you can stand and be appraised of the discussion, even though you're not there. So I would encourage you, if you are sincerely interested, to start to pay attention to the board meeting proceedings.
And you can watch it on CGTV
Well,
also.
and
You can watch
is
it on,
that
if you have cable.
is that 7 o'clock? Would that be 7?
That'll be 3 o'clock.
Oh, 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock is your next meeting on the 28th.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
sir.
That's our regular monthly meeting, is the 20th.
That's at the Champaign City Building.
Correct.
In the City Council chambers.
Brad, a comment on affecting the service. Petitions are difficult to dialogue with, very difficult to dialogue with. I think if we're attempting to have the best outcome in terms of the level of service, the key is to have good people in dialogue with our staff. Like I said, petitions are there and you can't talk to them, and they can't react. So I think that, from my perspective, in having the most favorable outcome in terms of service, managing the roundabouts, et cetera, the most important thing is to have the right people dialoguing with our staff, people who understand the issues and can react. Carl, would you agree that dialogue is maybe the most important part?
Certainly.
Do you welcome individuals to email suggestions or whatever? Okay. Because that could be a path if we make it known.
I don't
don't know if it's been stated that the roundabout issue is a big issue for Abbey Fields as well. We do have one that's right after our entry, and trucks have knocked over the sign that says there's a roundabout. They've knocked off the curb, and there's a mess with the concrete. They've run over the shrubbery, and just the same as across the street, our bill for landscaping for the HOA is incredibly high. It's the largest expense for the HOA. In fact, it's really the majority of the dues, and we had to increase the dues from what the developer was charging, because the developer was actually doing some of that maintenance. So in order to take over all those costs, we had to increase the dues to our homeowners as well. So being able to maintain those common areas is kind of a constant struggle.
Does this happen often?
And what's
I mean,
happening
that the
more when there's
concrete
a lot
gets
of
broken
building.
and the signs get knocked over?
The sign just got knocked over a couple months ago, we had it repaired, replaced. But there's a lot of construction vehicles running through there with ongoing construction, bringing in that dumpsters. It's very congested. And it's,
The moving trucks, when it's nearly impossible to get a semi in there. So some people, they've got a big moving truck, they don't realize it. And there was actually one morning I was leaving my driveway, and I'm just a few houses after the roundabout. There was a truck with stuff, and for English Oak, there is the only way in and out of Abbey Fields. So I had to go back into my house and just wait, and it was an hour more before they got the truck pulled out from stuff wedged in between the roundabout. So I would hope that that you've tested a bus to make sure it could get through there.
I was going to say that's not an uncommon occurrence. It hasn't been an uncommon occurrence in our neighborhood. I wanted to say too before I left, I am grateful for the MTD in our community. Like I said, I serve all of Champaign-Urbana, and I have clients that specifically buy houses because it's on one of your bus routes.
Yes, I do too.
And it's a very important service, so I'm not against at all what it is you do for most of our community. And I think that we're just saying it for our part of the West 40, it's just not something we've seen as a need, and feel it's a little bit more going to be a concern than a need. So thank you for your time.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for coming, we appreciate it.
So you just leave,
thank you very much.
You can go as
Yeah,
you
okay, because I
see
didn't know if we were
fit.
going to talk.
Thank you for coming. We're gonna stay here till 6 o'clock in case anyone else.
We're the only ones who have to stay here.
I'm
for
so
school.
sorry.
It's okay. It's okay, we were aware of that when we came, so.
But you're welcome
You
to
can
stay.
go out and then bring us donuts, I mean, that's fine.
I
I
would
don't
say
do donuts,
Subway.
sorry.
Subway.
I can go and bring you some fresh carrots to nibble on there.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah,
Valerie.
thank you for
Very
listening, I
valuable.
appreciate that. I like to kind of know what's going on. Nice to meet you too. Mr. Tracy?